I believe that anyone can make a positive difference in the world, great and small. I see it every day. And you don't have to be a celebrity or billionaire to do it. All you really need is the desire to use your unique gifts, talents, and passions, and then to simply begin. Hi, I'm Linda Mackey, and welcome to The Eloquent Entrepreneur, a place where I have conversations with everyday changemakers just like you. Join us and hear inspiring stories, hard-won wisdom, and discover practical tools to help you accelerate your impact. So whatever you're doing right now, listen in and prepare to be inspired. I'm here with Sandy Dow. Her company is called the Dow Effect, and she is a somatic coach. So we're going to hear from her and how she helps people, namely creatives and artists and entrepreneurs, to really do their best in their lives and empower them and all that. So here she is. Thank you for joining me. And let's start with what is a somatic coach? Because I really don't know what that is.
That's a good question. Thanks, Linda. I took a training a few years back called Somatic Experiencing, and it was like a deep dive into everything about the nervous system and somatics. And somatics is sort of the new buzzword out there these days. You probably hear about it quite a bit, and it's kind of taking therapy and therapeutics into a more body-aware and body-focused treatment model for helping resolve trauma and anxiety and these types of things. So in a somatic type coaching session, it's very slow, it's very paced. You might start talking about something and I'll interrupt you and say, can we pause for a minute? And then I'll just say, and what do you notice? And then you might say, wow, my chest is tight and I'm tearing up. And then we'll just slow that down. And through that slowing process, it isn't so much about thinking, it's about allowing. A lot of times insights will come up, sort of things that are, maybe stuck together around a situation that might have happened, like the event, the belief, what you feel. And through that, we can gently sort of pull apart situations and maybe traumatic or overwhelming events, and help them integrate or process.
Okay, yeah, I think I've had that done before. Yeah, where you're really listening to your body and then kind of coming or, verbalizing what that might mean or what it feels like.
Mm-hmm.
Is that right?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, cool. No, that sounds amazing. So tell us a little bit about yourself and your business and sort of what you do, what you're passionate about. Because I know you're very passionate about your work.
I mean, it's really come from my own journey with anxiety and being a sensitive person myself. I always had a body and a mind that reacted to the environment around me. So rashes and hives and phobias and, like most people do, but probably more. I would say I struggled more, just neurodiversity, challenges learning. And so growing up as that kind of a person and with that type of experience just really led me to always be sort of searching and learning for more ways to help myself and to understand myself. Mm-hmm. And so that kind of rolled into a big breakdown when I was in my 40s, where it was just like my body was speaking to me a lot, with a lot of things going on. I wasn't really paying attention. I was burned out, stressed out, and everything just kind of came apart.
Culminated.
Yeah, that's right. You hear about that, the breakdowns that precede the breakthroughs. And through that healing journey, it really sort of sent me on this course, sort of learning and healing for myself. And then it's like, oh, okay, this is really interesting. And just really deepening into educating myself so that I could help others. And sort of my practices stemmed from there. And also just being astounded at the physical healing as well as emotional healing that came from a variety of tools and ways that I would never have come across sort of in the mainstream way of looking at illness, certainly.
Mm-hmm.
So what are the kinds of things you help people with specifically? And is it just women, or is it men and women, or?
My real passion is helping people with their expression. So I was somebody who, even though I was quite introverted and shy, I had that was like this big me inside that wanted out. So I had a desire to be, speaking or teaching or out on the stage or performing, that kind of thing. But it would really be hugely impactful on my nervous system. So, my passion from that was helping other sort of artists or creatives who know that they've got something inside them, but getting it out is can actually make them ill. You can actually break down physically just from the stress of trying to be able to express or perform. They call it performance anxiety, but it can go in many different ways. And so that's my true favorite person to work with. Been fortunate to work with a lot of artists, but basically when it comes down to it, it's really how the brain works and how it can kind of really impair and inhibit, make our lives difficult, just with dealing with anxiety. So from there, I'm just getting a lot more interested in just teaching about nervous system and anxiety, because it was a game changer for me, learning about the nervous system.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I was just saying to you before we started, I would love to work with you, because this is something that I've been working on my whole life. I think we've had a kind of almost parallel things. I know you lost your dad at a young age, and I lost my mom at a young age. And I've been in most recent years, realizing that self-expression is such a huge part of my journey. It's part of the reason I became a photographer, and it's something that I am working on myself, but I also want to help young entrepreneurs and creatives to help them find their voice, because it is so directly related to, like you said, anxiety and like emotional stuff, trauma, and the central nervous system. And I have back issues and stuff like that. And I know a lot of that stress and trauma and stuckness, or whatever it is that prevents us from self-expressing, it does live in our bodies in different places. And I mean, I've been told by my acupuncturist and my chiropractor, like, that's where you're holding your stress.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
So it's all part and parcel of what we're talking about. So I find it all very interesting. And I'm like, yay, I found my person, because I feel like, like we're kind of on the same page, and you're somebody that I know I can talk to. And I know, just from what you're saying now, I mean, I'm sure, I know that you help a lot of people with this. It's one of the epidemics in the world, the whole stress and anxiety stuff, even without the pandemic.
Right.
So, but I know the other thing we have in common is the highly sensitive person. Can you speak to that a little bit, just so people understand kind of what is a highly sensitive person and what does that mean in the day-to-day?
How it might show up is feeling maybe overwhelmed in crowds or by noises. You might find yourself sensitive to scent. So you can, a certain aisle of the store or whatever where there's smells can feel overwhelming. Bright lights can feel overwhelming. And things like that can actually cause physical symptoms. Fatigue, rashes, even chronic fatigue, and the sort of the autoimmune types of disorders. All of this is very directly related to the brain, so the limbic brain. So we have a part of our brain that's still wired as it was, back in the day, scanning for danger all the time, and it doesn't really serve us to have a nervous system that's always looking for tigers in the bush or bears to jump out. But that's what happens, especially when we are right now very aware that there's threats out in our environment. So our limbic brain is working overtime. Certainly whenever we step out of the house, we will unconsciously become very vigilant to what's going on out there. And that's even before this. So we might have, already known that we had a nervous system that was quite sensitive in that way to stimuli. And so this is all by stimuli. So things in our environment that we pick up on with our eyes and our brain. Become triggers because a certain part of our brain is like overcompensating. So it might have a little sniff and go, oh, danger, and then all of a sudden you'll find you get headachy or react. So it's kind of goes from the brain to the physical symptoms, and then we feel unwell. It can progress to that point. And so there are people who are live very closed-in lives from like chemical sensitivities and different kinds of things that can come from that. But basically it all comes from a certain part of our brain, and that brain will literally grow in size in response to sort of always this vigilance. So it's like the vigilance grows, it'll pick up more sense or become even more and more sensitive to things that maybe we were a little bit sensitive before, because it just kind of it's just picking up the wrong signals. It's literally cross-wired. So all the wires are in the wrong sockets, and it's becoming out of control. And so then our fears take over, our anxieties become overwhelming, and our emotions are overwhelming. And we can also become physically sick from that. Right. And so that's why, well, I think most of us know we can't talk ourselves out of anxiety. And we might try and think it totally relates to what I'm thinking, but actually it's more like what we're experiencing. And then the brain goes off, and then we hear I shouldn't do this, or I can't do this, or I'm afraid, those voices in the head. So those kind of go together, and it's like this voice really triggers even more anxiety. So it's kind of a vicious circle. But I found that I had a lot more compassion for myself once I started studying somatics and the nervous system, because I realized actually it's just something that's happening in my physiology in response to. So it's not me making this up. It's not the voice in my head saying, all those things that's creating that. I'm literally, my body is having a response, and it's very fast. Our nervous systems are very finely tuned. It happens in a millisecond, and all of a sudden we can be, completely triggered by something that makes no sense. And it can also be relational, other people as well. We can just notice other people, or someone will walk into the room, and we will become vigilant to them. Our nervous system picks up their nervous system, and then we start feeling, and then we might start responding in ways we wish we didn't, and we go down that rabbit hole.
Yeah. I like to think there's a really positive side to being highly sensitive. I mean, there's all that stuff too, which is, obviously affects our emotional and physical. But I think I don't know, I'm kind of embracing my highly sensitive, because I'm like, I've always been like this. And I'm like, I always thought it was a bad thing, but I find because we are so, like you said, our nervous systems are so vigilant around other people, it makes us very highly empathic and sensitive to other people's feelings and emotions, and intuitive. Like there's all sorts of really positives to being a highly sensitive person. So do you agree with that? Or
yeah, I'm so glad you mentioned that. And even the label, I prefer to avoid labels like that, because then we kind of the next thing we're like, wow, and it just gets bigger again. But I find that too. Like I'm the one on the walk who goes like, look at that leaf up there in that tree, right? Like I notice things that other people don't notice, and find joy in things that are so simple. And so I'm very attuned to the things that I perceive, I guess, as negative, but also the things that are really positive in the world as well. So
exactly, yeah. No, it's a whole other topic that I'm sure we could talk for hours about, but I think it's important for people to understand, and maybe they can relate, or maybe this resonates with people maybe who aren't aware that they are highly sensitive as well, and that they're okay. So you are a book author. Tell us about your book. It's called Thriving in Chaos. I'm excited to read it.
Right. And that title came from, I think it was about 5 or 6 years ago, but it sure applies right now. It's just being more and more right on topic. And truly that came from, again, my own experience of finding ways to help myself. And so, and I guess I'm, it's just my area of fascination. So I was always kind of looking up things and trying things. And so from various things that I've studied in energy medicine and even spirituality, I would find ways that I could help myself with basically my expression. This book it is kind of geared towards people who are pushing themselves outside of their comfort zone, though all of the tools are just basic tools for really brain health and energy health.
Right. Yeah, no, that sounds exciting. Like just to have some tools on hand to work through some of those fears and anxieties of whatever it is that you're working on, or
Mm-hmm.
relationships,
Yeah.
anything. That sounds awesome. So, what do you believe your greatest gift is in the work that you do? And how does that apply? I know you're gonna do a little demo with me, so people will kind of see what your work looks like. But what do you feel like in all your years of just personal experience and trainings and working with clients? What do you feel your greatest gift is that you give?
Well, I think, for people who have been a road and experienced a lot, and certainly I've had, chronic illnesses right from very young, I have a lot of rapport and empathy for people who've been on that path as well. So I really, I just find that I really have that fuels my desire to work with people who've had challenges of that kind, and really want to find a way through them. And I'm just super excited to work with people like that. And I think it gives me a sensitivity and attunement in sessions with people that I do one-on-one, and also just fuels my wanting to educate sort of on the bigger picture, especially for young people. I have 3 kids. They're now in their late 20s and 30s, but just that experience in raising kids, and what our young people are going through these days with anxiety. I'm pretty stoked to share anything that I can around helping with that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, yeah, and like we talked about before, I mean, it's just, I don't know, I find the more people I talk to, it's just so common. Like, everybody's got something that they're working on, some anxiety that they're fear. It's not uncommon, and it's, it's not the end of the world, but it's something that we're talking more about, and people are, focusing on a little bit more to help themselves, because, it does stop us in our tracks. I know it stops me a lot, and, it kind of ebbs and flows, but it's always kind of ever present. So
Yes.
finding like the tips and tools that you talk about in your book that are just going to really help people to, get through the day even, or get to the point of thriving where they can master that in their lives somehow, and enjoy life a little bit more without that nagging.
I know, right? Just being more comfortable. I mean, even the word thriving seems like a stretch right now, really, but just feeling a little bit more comfortable, just having a little bit more ease can be a big
somewhere on the spectrum. Yeah,
absolutely. Just a little bit more it can be a really big deal when we feel like we're just being hit all the time, and our capacity, our resilience is really whittled down pretty small right now. And I feel, I always used to talk about self-care. That was sort of the buzzword or whatever. And we all kind of played around with that. And now I feel like it is non-negotiable, really. If we want to stay healthy enough in our bodies and mentally to even just do basic function, we've got to figure out the right way and the right things to do to help ourselves, to support our mental health. And
big time. Yeah. And even like, I mean, I'm a photographer, but I find that, what we're talking about actually finds its way into my work. Like even when I'm working with clients, like I'm helping them to self-express with confidence, with helping them to appease their fears, whether it's just having their picture taken. it's all part and parcel. But at the bottom of it, it comes down to self-acceptance,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and self-care and all that is all part of it. But there's always something around, there's something wrong with me. And then from there comes the anxieties and the fears. And so I love this. And this is something that I want to take further into my business. Like as I grow and maybe get to a point where I can't take pictures anymore, you know, like I said, help young photographers or creatives just help them self-express. So it's all part of my journey personally too, you know, and I'm excited to do our demo. So should we start on that?
Why don't we do that? Just as a gift to anybody who's watching, I've created something I called the PACES approach. It kind of came in a download not that long ago. And it was basically me using a few of the tools that I do use in a sequence that was, I found very impactful. And then kind of the letters and the word came and it all kind of came together. And then I started using it myself and I thought, oh, this is good. Like it just was really helping me a lot. I've been using it more with my clients and teaching about it more. So let's do it. It's called PACES. So that's the acronym for it. And P is literally for pausing. So the big piece and maybe the hardest part of this is finding times in the day where we literally pause, stop, interrupt what we're thinking, interrupt what we're doing, and redirect ourselves. So our limbic brain, that brain that's wired, that's sensing all the time, if we interrupt it, it's very powerful. It goes, whoa. And then we start doing things where we help it realize that it's safe. So the next letter is A, so awareness. So we stop and we put our awareness, and we'll do that right now, just on your room. So take a look around where you are. And just name to yourself what you see. Maybe pictures on the wall or plant. So orient
everybody else, but it's my office behind me.
Yeah. So we were just orienting visually. And then to anything that you can hear in the background, maybe far away. And as we do this, we are literally sending a signal to our brain saying, oh, I'm safe. Like I'm here. There's my lamp, there's my desk. And that vigilance, and you might find that just by taking a moment and doing this, I usually my shoulders drop. It's like, oh yeah, okay, here I am, right? So just awareness. So it's like making friends with your environment. So that limbic brain that is always reading and searching for danger, you're looking around and saying, no, we're okay. It's okay here. Okay, I can hear, I can feel, I can touch, I can smell. Yeah. Do you notice a little bit? Yeah. And so the next is C, so connection. So taking your arms and putting them into a hug. So making a connection with the body. So whatever way feels good for you, give yourself a little squeeze.
Okay.
Yeah, just take a moment to feel that contact with yourself. Like there's the boundaries of your body. When we're stressed, we become dissociated or disconnected from our bodies. Yeah, so pressing your arms right against your heart there so you can feel that connection. Yeah, and then dropping your arms down to your legs because we also become even more disconnected from the lower half of our body. So feeling that long, strong bone in your thigh. Bending your ankles and your knees, just saying hello to your legs. When we're stressed, most of the sensation is in the upper body. The tension, the constriction is here. So that's where our awareness goes. So it's kind of like going, oh, right, legs, feet, right? So it can be very grounding. And so again, connecting with the ground, how you're being supported. So feeling the chair coming up to meet you, feeling the earth coming up to meet your feet. And as soon as we put our awareness, so it's really about that awareness of that connection, it's instantly grounding for us. It's like, oh, right. Yeah, I'm being held here. I'm being supported.
Yeah, that makes a huge difference.
What do you notice adding this part?
Yeah, just feeling more grounded, more like less like.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. And I find the next one is exhale. And I find as I do this, I usually find myself just naturally exhaling. So noticing my breath or a sigh. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I'm
you can
trying
go
to do
back.
more breath work because it really does make a huge difference.
Yeah.
I'm a person who doesn't, I forget to breathe.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so going back into that hug again, and we're just going to do a couple more exhales. When we exhale audibly, or with a hum, it tones or stimulates the vagus nerve, which is goes down through the back of our neck and into our body. And when we're stressed, the vagus nerve is stressed. And by stimulating it with the voice, or even just long extended exhales, that vagus nerve relaxes, and so everything in our body relaxes as well.
Mm-hmm.
So just a couple more exhales. This is also a really good way to just quiet the mind. Find 3 or 4 exhales like this, and I'm like, what was I thinking? I don't know if you notice that now. Your mind's just a little more peaceful. Nice. And just noticing again, I was checking in what's different here.
Makes me want to fall asleep.
Yeah. We're literally switching that vigilance off like a light switch. It was on and now it's like, oh. And then underneath, when it switches off, we feel how tired we are underneath that vigilance.
Oh, I can totally feel my head feels different now. It's like
yeah, because we override, which is great. You know, we have to learn how to do that to function in society, but that overriding constantly, especially when we're holding a lot of stress, is very depleting and exhausting for our nervous system, for our body. And but we just can't even tell it's happening. Right. So that's how you can tell, is when you feel a little bit of that fatigue, is like, wow, I think I'm back. And
I feel more in my body. I feel more relaxed. I feel calmer. I feel like if I wanted to, I could go take a nap. You know, normally I'm so wired up that I can't sleep until it's bedtime.
Right. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Well, this is
It
good.
feels nice.
Yeah. And so S is the last one, and it's for stretching. So just getting into some movement, because anxiety, emotions, our thoughts are all energy. There's all energy inside, and it's energy that's locked in there that wants a way out. So if you think of it as energy, like, wow, I'm feeling anxious, I'm actually feeling all of this energy tightness here in my chest. What wants to happen? So how can you help that? So opening up, countering that collapse with the chest out, the shoulders back, chin up can be one way. And also, if you're feeling a lot of that energy, standing and shaking out, bouncing, any of those can just get that energy moving. And that's why exercise is so good. But when we do it, even that little bit more mindfully in this way, like, what does my body want? What wants to happen here? Maybe the body doesn't want big, fast energy. You know, when we slow down enough, we can tell, like, maybe just a gentle stretch is all it is. Or maybe we just really need to move something. Maybe we're angry or something's happening on it. Just needs to move, and we sense that. So you're giving permission for that in this aspect, because we're animals, basically. Humans are animals, and animals move all the time. And we're much more sedentary than we ever used to be. So that's not ideal for our nervous system. And so, no, go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying, and it's evident when we do these type of exercises that we are energy.
Right?
It really does. You really do feel it.
Yeah.
You know, you're moving energy around.
Yeah. You're helping
outside of your body.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And with F, the last piece is also to add a smile. So when we smile, we again will tell our brain that we're okay, right? So it's almost like another communication form for the brain, because we don't tend to be smiling when we're in danger or when we're afraid or upset, right? So even faking a smile can allow a change in the hormones and the chemicals of our body. So, and that's really important. So smiling and saying all is well. So while you're having your stretch, we can try that with a smile and just repeating all is well. So even if you don't believe it, even if you're in the middle of a huge disaster, in this moment, in this exact moment of this stretch and of this little smile and being aware of where you are in this moment, all is well. And it's just, again, so important to change the chemistry and to change our brain into going, oh, right, what is that? Like, we're running stress 24/7. It's never been like this before. We've never been at such high levels of threat and stress in our bodies. And so we're growing this limbic part of our brain to become more reactive, more vigilant, and less resilient. So truly, the way out is something like this, where we stop it, we show it it's okay. And then the big piece that's really important is giving yourself time during the day, or if you have time doing this exercise, to just imagine something hopeful or beautiful, or take yourself back to that, vacation where you were sipping your margarita in the sun, or thinking ahead in the future to something, something that makes you happy, some connections or anything like that, like really getting into the felt sense of all is well and all is wonderful and connecting and peaceful and love and gratitude, because that starts up a whole different chemistry in your body that creates the neural pathways to build that resiliency back to that. It's like if the nervous system doesn't know where else to go, and the brain is just going to keep going in the same way, because it literally doesn't have those pathways anymore. And it's not going to come unless we create it, right? So that's why this self-care piece is just so critical right now. Like it's a little bit of effort. It's kind of like going to the gym, or, modifying our diet to be healthy, or those things that they're kind of hard sometimes, but they're really important. And I think this is critically important right now. So these types of pieces here, that awareness, and also spending time where we truly get into the sense of hope and gratitude. And so we can build those pathways so that we remember them, so we can start to maybe find some peace in our days or comfort and get that back.
Yeah, that was great. And a good reminder that it's like an exercise that we need to do for our hearts and our minds and our bodies. Take the time, just like we would for a client or our kid we're trying to look after. We have to look after ourselves. And I know I'm guilty of, not looking after myself in that way,
Oh, for sure.
It's crucial, especially now, So thank you. That was really good. I'm excited to practice that on a daily.
And I just wanted to speak to, you mentioned about parenting, and I think that's a really big one, because just that concept, which was interesting for me to learn, like our children are truly plugged into us, attuned to us. So like their nervous system is our nervous system, which was not the best thing for me to find out. It's just like, oh no, really? It's like, I know my nervous system wasn't the healthiest when I was younger, but it's just so good to know why, sometimes we want things for our children, and we want to get help for our children, and we put our focus and attention on helping them, when in fact, and a lot of times our children don't want that, right? And they're resistant, and then we get in struggles with them. And that's why this is so powerful, because really the only thing we do have control of, we eventually find out, is ourselves. And doing this, if we can change our own physiology, if our nervous system shows up differently in those exchanges with a child or a partner or a family member, and we show up and we can just stay grounded and stay in love and gratitude, which isn't easy right now, right? And especially if people are reactionary and people are stressed, and everyone else's nervous systems are like this, and we feel them, right? So that's why truly I think our job is our nervous system, our health. And if we can really commit to that kind of perspective, it can be a game changer, because then we start to see ourselves showing up differently. And then what happens over there that used to happen all the time, because it was this dynamic between, I call it the tennis game. Well, they said, and then we react, and then we say, and it's all very unconscious. We're just firing their triggers for us, right? And our nervous system is always ahead of us. It'll always beat us to what we really wanted to say. So if we can just find a way to just step out of that tennis game, everything can change, right? And so that's how we offer healing to those around us, just in that simple way.
Yeah, and isn't it true? Like, I mean, I've always felt like, just as a photographer, I always say, we're having an energy exchange here.
Mm-hmm.
My energy is affecting your energy, and so how you come across on camera is in reaction, or is part of this energy exchange. So that, I think, goes to in our dealings with people. So, because I noticed that with my son, and especially our children, they're, like you said, they're totally plugged into our nervous system and our energy. So I find, when I'm anxious and having high anxiety, he too becomes like a little whirling dervish, so it is so true what you're saying. And to be able to give myself that time, I'm actually giving it to my son as well, and my husband, and my clients, and my friends. It is really, really powerful if we can give ourselves that time. So,
and I like the way you just said that. It made me think of the way I think of it too, is like dedication, right? So sometimes it's so hard to do things for ourselves, but if we dedicate it for, like, my love for you, or my love for the rainforest, or, finding something to dedicate to. And so I'm going to do this that I really don't feel like doing. I don't want to make the time for it, but I'm going to do it in dedication of something bigger or something greater. It's like,
well, that's helped me have a mind shift around this, because a lot of times, like, one of the things I'm working through is, how should I word this? Like, I value myself, but at times I'm like, oh, don't bother. You don't really deserve this time, or, you should do it for somebody else, or, it's that self-care thing, we just kind of like, oh, it's okay. You don't need to, you know what I mean? Like, but when I think about it in a way that if I do this and dedicate it, I'm actually doing it not just for myself, but for everyone around me. So it kind of actually makes it, a different mindset around it. It adds that motivation, that's going to be positive, not just for me, but it's going to be positive for other people that I come into contact with. So I like that, where it's not just all about me, it's involving, whoever I'm in exchange of energy with.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. And that's a good way of using it. And it also makes me think too of that voice. One thing I talk about in my book as well is just hearing the voice that, makes us crazy, that we want to push away, and that we want to stop, those thoughts, the intrusive thoughts, the negative thoughts, the self-berating thoughts. I just feel it's so important to have compassion for the voice. And so just when you hear that, just go, I hear you. As if you were hearing like a younger, wounded part of yourself, like really hearing that voice as a part of you that's just desperately wants your attention. All she wants is to be heard. Maybe she's never been heard before. And so it can be huge. It can create huge shifts by just simply, instead of like, oh, I need to stop that, I just want to hear that anymore, to just go, okay, I hear you. and just little baby steps towards just the acceptance of that voice, or the acceptance of the possibility that there's a part of ourself, a wounded part of ourself, that just wants to be heard and wants to be accepted. And what that does is it just turns the fire down and the flame down in the intensity of that energy. So it feels like it's just coming at us like I shouldn't have done that, or I shouldn't, all of those types of things. It's so strong. If we push it away, we will never win, never. It's just going to intensify. And then we get into this incredible battle. And so it's like softening that by just saying, it's okay. It's totally okay to feel that way. It's totally okay to feel like you made a mistake, or that you shouldn't have said that, or that it's just too much, and that you like just accepting, and you'll just feel the energies just start to just decrease and soften. And then from that softening place, that's just part of this. Like in the pause part of paces would be this, like when you interrupt, it's just like saying hello to that voice. I hear you. I hear you. And we're just going to stop for a minute.
Yeah. Can you look at that voice? I've heard, I don't know who said it, but they said that voice is not you. That is not that it's not you, but it's a part of you, but it's not you per se. So you can, like you said, acknowledge it and give it compassion, but know that it's not, do you know what I mean? Like it's not 100% you, that you have to like push it away or berate it or put it down. And I don't know, for me, it kind of helps me to know that that's not me. It's just that maybe inner child, or look at it as somebody that you need to give love and compassion to. And yeah, like I hear you, like you said, that gives me a little bit more comfort, rather than you're bad. It's just another, if you think of it as 100% me, then I'm just going to think you're a bad person and you're undeserving or whatever. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's good. What I tend to think of it as is like there's like my higher, wiser self, right? So, and she's always in there. Like we truly have this highest version of ourselves. Feels like we get pretty disconnected from it at times. And so this wounded self, or pain body, as Eckhart Tolle defines it, or this energy or nervous system response, there's different ways to see it. When it's so strong, it's like it takes us over and we don't even know where we are, kind of thing. But by stopping, pausing, acknowledging that voice, it's like we make a separation from it. So instead of it's me now and I'm that scared person, it's just like, oh, there's that scared part of me. I'm speaking to it as my higher, wiser self. And I'm offering it what it needs. Like, I see you, I hear you, I accept you. Yeah. And so here I am. So just by you're able to separate from it, bring yourself back, right? In that pause, P for pause, you can do that. Hello to the voice. I'm going to look around here for a second. It's feeling pretty intense. I'm going to look around and I'm safe. I'm going to give myself a squeeze. Hello, that voice is there. And so going through that, so you're settling your nervous system and your energy, tending to that voice. This is something like that can be expanded on. And so it can be a very powerful self-care exercise that you can do when you do really, are times when you're noticing that's really strong.
And I see it as being a little like self-expanding, learning and growing. I mean, I am of the belief that we're always becoming and growing. And I heard this too from somebody else. I can't remember who it was, but this is kind of this, if you can do that and do this work, it's kind of exciting, like, because somebody said that there is a you that you haven't met yet.
Love that.
So that to me is exciting, because I'm like, okay, I don't have to be like this. the part of me that I don't like, I don't have to be like this forever. I can, if I give myself the time, if I give myself the pause, if I give myself or listen to that higher wisdom Linda inside me, there is a new you that I haven't met yet. That it's kind of exciting, you know,
Yeah.
to think of it that way. Yeah, there was just something that I thought came to mind that I'd heard before that really resonated with me. You know, there's many yous you haven't met yet, maybe.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the
So,
somatic therapist in me wants to just pause you and just see what you notice, even just as you're talking about that.
yeah, I mean, I feel like, yeah, my energy just went up a bit because I feel
Yeah.
like, okay, that's exciting to me because, you know, part of me is just like, I'm done feeling down about myself. I'm done feeling like I'm hiding, or I'm not using my voice. That's part of the reason I'm doing the show. It's like, you know, it's my next little baby steps towards self-expression. So yeah, no, it's inspiring me personally to, you know, peel back the layers a little bit. Each time I learn a different tool, better ways to love myself and express myself and acknowledge that little voice, because it's always there, right? Not necessarily as a negative thing, but it's something, you know, that wiser Linda, or that inner child that still wants to be heard. I think that's, yeah, it makes me want to cry because it's like, it's so, yeah. Because I know, I mean, we all have our little girls and our little boys inside of us, you know, that are still, um, you know, working through whatever it is that caused us pain or trauma at some point, you know, and I mean, I like to think people do, you know, people do work through these things and get to a point where they're in bliss or whatever. I don't know. But at the same time, we still have that little boy or little girl inside us, whatever that looks like at the end of the day, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So I think it's pretty cool. I mean, I like the little girl in me. I like to get back to her at some point because she did have full self-expression at one time.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah.
So
It's like we're remembering these parts of our souls. And as we integrate them, as we become more in relationship with them and accepting of them, they hold great power. They hold all of that, oftentimes the expression, the voice, the you know, free spirit part of ourselves. And it's like that soul part comes back to us and brings us that life back as we learn to accept this part of ourselves. So it's really, really a big piece, that self-acceptance of all of ourselves, right?
yeah,
The voices.
so huge. It's yeah, I'm very passionate about that. I'm finding more and more now. You know, because that's how we enjoy our lives, when we do fully just embrace who we are and express that, because then we can be free and of these fears and anxieties and you know, enjoy the rest of our lives as much as possible.
Yeah.
Wow, this has been really enlightening, and I'm so thankful we finally got to do your interview, and I'm excited to learn more and have more conversations with you. Is there anything you want to share? What are you, is there anything next for you that you're excited about doing, or anything you want to share with everybody watching?
Yeah. My information's on my website at sandydow.com. I want to start developing some kind of class that's more accessible for people, that will include the paces and some of the pieces that I work with people one-on-one. So I'm working on developing that in pandemic time, which I don't know if you notice is like a lot slower than time used to be. So if you sign up for my email list, or just keep an eye on my website or social media, I will be posting about those classes coming up and being able to share more.
Great. Well, I'll include your website in the show notes, and so people know where to find you. And yeah, I really appreciate your time and sharing your wisdom and knowledge. And yeah, I look forward to continuing our conversations.
Thank you so much, Linda. It's been great today.
Thank you so much. We'll chat with you soon. Have a great afternoon.
Okay, bye-bye.
I hope you enjoyed today's episode of The Eloquent Entrepreneur, Conversations with Everyday Changemakers, and that you're feeling supercharged and inspired to make your positive impact in the world. Because one thing I know for sure is that together we can create a lasting legacy and ignite others to do the same. To learn more about The Eloquent Entrepreneur and more, visit my website at lindamackey.ca. Bye for now.